Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching the Locker Room Daily Report, or TLDR for short. You never really know what's going to be happening on any given day when I'm streaming live on Twitch, as I'm doing right now during the broadcast. I was looking at Twitter and had noticed that Scott Forstall, who doesn't tweet a lot, tweeted that today, the day of this recording live on Twitch, and you're more than welcome to join us during the broadcast every night at 6 p.m. if you are so inclined, you want to join the community. Today, right now, this is the day, 10-year anniversary of Steve Jobs' passing. And I may have talked about this in recent years, certainly with my disenfranchisements, coming out of the reality distortion field a couple of times in relation to how I look at Apple, how I see Apple, the products I'm interested in that Apple produces. But I'm not sure if I've talked specifically about his passing 10 years later. I know I did a live video on YouTube back then. Now I'm on Twitch doing live. That day, I remember that day doing a live video talking about his passing. And being not despondent, saddened, concerned for the future. And I want to say, one of the things I said, and y'all can fact check me because I do believe that video is still up. I want to say that my big concern wasn't that Apple stuck around. I felt that Apple was going to last. I felt that there was enough there, cachet, for them to build on, right? Enough laurels for them to rest upon, at least for a period of time. I really was hopeful that Apple wouldn't make decisions the way they made them. Now, I'm not saying that Apple has not been successful. I'm not saying Apple hasn't made a lot of money. I'm not saying that they haven't moved a ton of products, because they have. I'm not trying to take away from that. I'm not trying to take away from anybody's success or anybody's accomplishments at Apple, independent of Steve Jobs. But to me, Apple was Steve Jobs. Not just him, the individual, but his vision of it. The vision of products being perfectly polished or polished enough. And it doesn't mean that, Apple's products back then were perfect, but they were awesome. And they were exactly what I would have wanted in software. So I'm still very much a software-driven decision maker in terms of the products that I'm interested in, because the software speaks to the overarching experience, not the hardware. That always changes. Software always changes too, but the way Apple was creating products back then, software was on equal footing with hardware. But one of my concerns, and I do believe in the video that I did live this day 10 years ago in this very chair, this very setting, I was concerned that Apple would lose its way in terms of its ethos, the design ethos, the approach to product perfection. That's where I felt Apple would change for me. I mean, change, yes, change happens, change comes to us all, but that's where I wouldn't see them the same way. And that's where I would have to make different decisions. And that was my big concern. And here we are 10 years later. And I'm not going to say that what I wished for didn't come true, but I now see Apple differently. And they make different products. I know you're saying, no, but they make them the same. They make them better. Well, okay. If you believe that, that's fine. It's your opinion. To me, the big change, the canary in the coal mine for me, despite me today, right now, still using macOS, I think macOS is my favorite operating system as of right now, as of this very moment. The canary in the coal mine was iOS 7, the first beta of iOS 7. And I was just beside myself. Y'all might remember that. That was like, I'm not going to say the beginning and the end of my relationship with Apple. I never had a relationship with Apple. Never had a relationship with Steve Jobs. I mean, I met him once. The day I bought my first Mac. I met him at a Palo Alto store. Like, I think the first Apple store. Met him, shook his hand. He told me to buy the iMac with a SuperDrive. That was my moment with Steve Jobs. And I'm grateful for that moment. iOS 7. Canary in the coal mine. I was just going, what's going on? And then for years, just tweeting, sometimes doing videos, just trying to figure out what was happening and why. Why did they forget why we loved them? Some of us loved them and loved their products. Because of the software. And because it worked so well with the hardware. Not just the hardware, not just the specs, but the overarching experience. So you're saying, well, they improved iOS. Have they? Let me tell you. I mean, I just got the iPhone 13 Pro Max. They haven't. It runs better, no doubt. Technology's improved. It's a race that never ends. But I've still seen an incredible amount of sloppiness and choppiness where there shouldn't be. Where there... I want to stop short of saying where there wouldn't be, because I cannot speak for somebody else's intentions. But I do believe, this should also probably go without saying, we'd be in a different place if Steve was still with us. He made a deep and lasting impact on my life, and I miss that about him. I miss that about Apple. And even for argument's sake, if you never saw the problems that I still see, if you don't see an issue with the software that I still see, talking specifically about iOS, to a certain degree watchOS, to a large degree iPadOS, not talking about macOS, definitely not talking about the hardware, tvOS, yeah, it's okay. It's a TV OS. That's what I can say about that. The software isn't what I feel it could or should be, but I'm not the one making decisions. I appreciated Steve making those decisions. I appreciated his look on product and how software and hardware were a better balance with Steve's direction. I think Tim Cook has done an amazing job, spectacular job with what he has and what Apple is today, at least. I don't know anything about the inside. I'm not into that. But you can look all the way to the modern release of Safari. And forget about the whole, you can move the address bar from the bottom to the top, because by default now on iOS it's at the bottom, but you can move it to the top. But it's a user experience mess. Like, when you have John Gruber from Daring Fireball basically dragging the new Safari through the mud, you got a problem. My concern on that day 10 years ago was that Apple was going to lose its way in terms of its design ethos and its software approach. And it happened, in my humble opinion. Whether or not you see it, whether or not you care, I'm just sharing my thoughts on this anniversary. I still miss him, and I miss him every time I look at an Apple product. I do. I don't want to get caught in the trap of, Steve never would have let this, or what would Steve do? I don't want to, even concern myself with that, because then I'd even get more despondent than I might be, because I want every company that produces a product they want me to buy to be better, to do better, to drive forward. Every company. Every one of them. So yeah, 10 years later, I wish I could sit here and feel differently than I do. But it's all about software to me. It always has been, from the early days of Locker Gnome back in the mid-90s when I was a Windows enthusiast, to today, installing the brand new released of Windows 11. I don't think that timing was anything specific. It just happenstance, coincidence. But yeah, you could say that I miss Steve Jobs' Apple immensely.